and a very warm welcome to Borders Rugby TV. This afternoon the team and I have travelled to the Gytes Leisure Centre where Peebles welcome Newton Stewart. Peebles are currently at the top of Division 2 on 55 points, having played 13 games, and Newton Stewart are in third on 50 points but having played 14. Newton Stewart will no doubt be looking to keep their promotion hopes alive today by repeating their winning performance that they had against Peebles back in October last year. Here is your commentator for the afternoon, Dale Clancy, and he'll be joined by Sam Mathews.
Yes, welcome along to the Gytes, and at this stage of the season the big games anyway, stick out like a sore thumb. And looking at the calendar this weekend, there was none bigger than Newton Stewart's trip to the Gytes. It's a new rivalry between these two sides. Newton Stewart only 39 years old, just fast approaching their 40th anniversary, and they kind of hold the cards against Peebles. 4 victories in their rivalry. Peebles have only won 3, but neither side have ever won away from home. And it's going to be Newton Stewart to get play underway here at the Gytes in the top of the table clash. Newton Stewart still have a chance for promotion from this division. They've never been higher, and they get play underway, and they kick downfield. It's gone into the hands of Jack Harrison early on as Peebles play from right to left towards the town. He's cleared his lines deep from the 22. Newton Stewart moved to the front and lifted as Ben McKillen, and then charging forward off the side is one of their industrious playmakers, Mark McCormick. He's just returning to the team, and he's going to be instrumental if Newton Stewart are going to get anything from this game. Kick downfield being gathered well by David Collins, who just jumps straight into contact. Well gathered as Jack Harrison, with number 20 on his back, kicks downfield. It's a lofty kick into the Newton Stewart 22, but well gathered as they kick downfield. A little chip over. It's just bounced well, and it's Harrison who's gathered. He's hot-footed round the right-hand side. Great offload to the on-rushing player there, Finlay Collins, for Peebles, as Peebles now enjoy their first spell with the ball in hand inside the Newton Stewart half. It's the captain, Murdo Anderson, who just powers through a couple of challenges. It takes 3 players to bring Murdo Anderson down. Jack Harrison now finds Ross Brown, who's charging through. He goes through one challenge as well, as this porous defence from Newton Stewart has been breached on a couple of occasions. It slows down. Ross Wolfenden now, the playmaker, out the back door. He found James Dow, who manages to clutch the ball, perhaps in the wrong area for his fly half, but did gather it well as Rowan McKeever finds Matty Carrier on the cusp of the 22 now. Jack Harrison sizes up his options. He looks to show and go. Davy Collins, who he had a little line back inside, a line that worked very well against Last Wade as he got the match-winning try a couple of weeks ago. To no avail this time as Matty Carrier just bounds off a couple of Newton Stewart's players. He's going to be vital for Peebles as well. Instrumental with the ball in hand, but obviously his accuracy at the line out. Ross Brown tips on out the back door. Ross Wolfenden can't gather. Newton Stewart are all over this ball. The referee's going to bring that back for a knock on, and it was a steady start there for Peebles. They were doing well, but just a little bit of an error there from Peebles as they were in a really good zone. A lot of Peebles players involved in that last passage of play. A lot of the Newton Stewart's players as well were having to try and double up on the Peebles players as they were attacking, and it's now in the hands of Robbie McCormick.
Set.
Scrum half for Newton Stewart. A little tap on the hand, and the onrushing drive comes on from Peebles, but Mark McCormick has done well just to sweep that up at the back under a lot of pressure. Newton Stewart now looking to carry round the corner and set up that platform for an exit, and they've been made to work hard for this from Peebles as well. The box kick downfield from Robbie McCormick has been gathered by Pate, who does well. He's been tackled there by Wilson Sloan in his opposite number, and Peebles players have to fold round quickly to protect that ball as Ross Brown now on the 10-metre line carries forward centre field, and the red and white hooped tops of Peebles with the navy shorts and the red and white socks as Matty Carrier throws the ball out the back. It's ricocheted forward as Ross Wolfenden now finds some open prairie. Jordan Charters looks to find James Dow, but the ball just pummels off his shoulder and goes into touch.
Thank you.
Put into the scrum. Again, the drive comes on from Peebles, but McCormick gives it away quickly. He feeds it on to his inside centre, Thomas Quigley, who's juggling the ball but did well to gather it in contact in a congested area. And now it's time for the second rows. James McMiken now. Ball going a little bit more expansive as Newton Stewart look to stretch this Peebles side, but they've been camped inside their half. Driven back from the scrum half there. Robbie McCormick to his fly half. David Gaw has been allowed to bounce, but Jordan Charters is now sizing up his options. He's trying to find that weak link in that defensive line, but he's been well marshalled on the halfway line. Now Jack Harrison thinks he sees a little gap there, but it's been plugged by John Napier, who just tucks the ball under his arm and charges forward. Rowan McKeever now offloading to Jack Harrison, and now he's breached the defence. A tap tackle coming on, and the offload has just went straight to Newton Stewart hand. Ben McMiken, who was tracking back well, so it's a chance for a counter-attack here from Newton Stewart. They've managed to get themselves into a situation where they can perhaps exploit Peebles in the wider channels. Not able to this time, still inside their own half as Gaw kicks downfield. A throw into the line out here for Peebles. Just in the Newton Stewart 10 metre line, Matty Carrier, he finds his target. Ross Brown gathers and puts it off the top and gives it to his captain Murdo Anderson, who just powers forward. Ross Brown gets round the corner pretty well to take the next foray forward. He's trying to get a knee to the ground to get that contact finished as Hodgkiss acts as first receiver out the back door to Wolfenden, manages to get round the gap, looks to free his arms as well to get a Peebles player through that hole, but not able to. Harrison slows play down and gives the ball to Finlay Collins. He just bounces and ricochets off a couple of Newton Stewart players who are in that full panelled red top as Matty Carrier tips on to Murdo Anderson. Intelligent play for Matty Carrier, a double winning captain for Hawick last season, now back at his hometown club. Peebles building up phases now, trying to manipulate Newton Stewart into a position that they can try and exploit. No penalties yet so far for either side, as Ross Brown now carries forward. Used to play in the centre, knows his way to penetrate on a defensive line as Harrison now snipes round the side. He's broken free from the shackles of a couple of challenges, offloads back inside. Peebles almost getting over the line, but has just been cut short, and they offload the tip on, and it looks like Matty Carrier is the player there to flop his way over the line. And it certainly is the big robust figure of Matty Carrier to get the opening score here for Peebles. And they've been made to work incredibly hard for it, but great work from Jack Harrison to find the gap, and it was just a matter of communication and running some hard lines after that for Peebles.
Yeah, exactly that. And Jack Harrison, he's a master at switching that ball through the contact. You know, he's made it getting it from left arm to right arm, and he actually used about 3 handoffs in that passage of play there. But then, like you say, to have that awareness of knowing who's about him, we saw it with the offload that didn't come off earlier in the game, but that one there, and then as you say, you've got great players like Matty Carrier. Kenny Clyde was involved as well. They're always looking for that break in defence because they want to be open field running like the Stags they are. They're massive with that stride, and they're such powerful runners.
That'll settle the Peebles nerves here at the Gytes. A very sizable crowd down below us in the balcony, and a sprinkling of spectators over on the far side as the low sun just ducks behind the trees here, just casting some long shadows as Ross Wolfenden takes a kick, right footed from the touchline. Unsuccessful this time for the youngster as Newton Stewart get play back underway. Kenny Clyde managed to jump a couple of inches to beat Newton Stewart to the ball. Fed back to Wolfenden. A low stabbing kick downfield has been gathered by Mark McCormick, a Tennent's Player of the Year for this division last year, and he jumps out of the challenge there for Rowan McKeever, and he's speaking to the referee, perhaps saying that was maybe a
change of direction,
a little
just for me.
Stray from the laws, but I think the referee has explained that quite well. McCormick is a really good player, but the first penalty of this afternoon is going to go the way of the home side. Matty Carrier, ball above his head, throws short as Murdo Anderson just catapulted through the cluster of bodies there at that line out, not lifted, just on rushing onto the ball. Ball's now in the hands of John Gray, who takes a tip on. The Peebles have enjoyed a fruitful spell with the ball in hand, and they'll be wanting to try and accumulate some points as Matty Carrier now carries forward 22 centre field. Ross Wolfenden linking up, but just tries to unlock the defence for James Dow. Not able to this time. Harrison keeps the tempo high and feeds Kenny Clyde. He's on the 5 metre line, just inside the 22 on the Gytes side here. Harrison, the scrum half, Donnan number 20, just powers forward. A very unorthodox palm off there from the young farmer. Perhaps with more of a bent arm than a straight arm, but Davy Collins is a depute there, quite comfortable at scrum half, just slides in there to play his auxiliary 9. Jack Harrison eventually gets onto his feet as Peebles have relinquished a couple of metres there, and that's great hands from the backs. Hodgkiss just linking up with Matty Carrier, who ghosts it in front, but now Newton Stewart have got the ball in hand and look to try and go downfield through David Gaw, who looked to kick, but it's been charged down by Ross Wolfenden. And it was great hands there, but great interception as well from Newton Stewart. That could have been dangerous.
It is, but what I really love is they know Matty Carrier is such a weapon, and they know that Newton Stewart used that, so they're really using him as a pivot player to shift that focal point where the two players are almost come in to pincer Matty Carrier. He has that skill and defensive touch to just float it off to the men on his shoulder, and as long as they keep inside-outside runners, that's going to be a problem for Newton Stewart all afternoon.
Thomas McDonald finds James McMiken in the line out, and it's then deployed midfield. Gaw now looks to kick downfield. He's found an acre of space there. Davy Collins is letting this bounce, gets to it first, and he's now on the outside of the Newton Stewart players, and it's a 2-on-1. The players having to filter back, but James Dow is in support now up to the 22. Neil Pate's going to have to get back to clear that ruck pretty quickly, and does well on the 22 as Collins now plays scrum half. Now in the hands of John Gray, who looks to just go through the gears from a standing start. Harrison feeds Wolfenden. He floats the ball to Carrier, who's been given acres of space and weaving the hips wide, but that ball out the back door has just hit off the face of his opposite number, Thomas McDonald, and went back on the Newton Stewart side. So again, another pass not going to hand for Peebles as they look to try and keep the pressure on inside the Newton Stewart half. Little wind to speak of here as well, so it's not a deciding factor in this game. It's been relentless pressure from the home side. As you would imagine, they'll be hoping to try and chase that bonus point. Victory is top of the pops, though, for the Gytes men. Kick downfield there from Robbie McCormick into the hands of James Dow. He feeds the ball to Davy Collins, who's trying to size up his options. He's looked to try and kick, but gives it to Neil Pate, who's got 2, 3, 4 Newton Stewart players for company. The ball has then went back off James Dow, who was wrapping round, and now he's got the ball back and received well off of Neil Pate. He's a neat ground, and Peebles again just enjoying spells of pressure with the ball in hand as Harrison kicks downfield but wins the penalty.
Tackler's upright.
Matty Carrier, ball above his head in a really favourable position. It's unorthodox from Peebles because they weren't able to communicate well and get the lift on, so that driving maul has been somewhat scuppered, but they've been able to get the ball back, and now John Napier just breaks free from the side. The Peebles players having to get in there quickly to try and get the ball back. The referee having a good look in there. The ball is free, and I think Newton Stewart have picked the pockets of Peebles and got the ball back on their side. A box kick downfield, and Neil Pate is watching this. It's bouncing, he's got a little bit of pressure on, and Newton Stewart are up pretty quickly in midfield as well to cut off any passes towards the side. Ross Wolfenden having to clear the bodies of players who were there from Newton Stewart, and does well as Wolfenden acts as scrum half. Harrison then finds McKeever, and there's pockets of space there, but it's been tipped into the hands of Ross Campbell. The prop now charging forward, but Wolfenden, the young 17-year-old, has just slung himself into contact round the knees of the prop. And now Newton Stewart can sniff blood and think there's an opportunity here to counter because they've got numbers up on the left-hand side in the hands of Gaw. Now McCormick getting the ball through the hands quickly there. It's now into the hands of the outside centre. Callum Gaw now. He weaves back in field, and Newton Stewart have manipulated a great situation here. And Jack Gaw, the fullback, has got Newton Stewart into the 22 now. The back row forward. And Daffod Gwynn has stolen another couple of yards for Newton Stewart, who are now inside the Peebles half. The inside centre, Thomas Quigley, with a kick of the heels to try and dislodge this Peebles defence. Thomas McDonald, the hooker, has been met by John Napier. Matty Carrier's there as well. Double challenge from Peebles to try and stop this onslaught from Newton Stewart. After they had the ball in hand, the interception there has just turned the tide of this pressure. And 15 minutes gone, Peebles hold a 5-0 advantage, and they've won the penalty as well. Peebles with a line out, they managed to find Finlay Collins and bring it down and look to drive that maul. It's not competed against, so he just pirouettes and goes forward and drives into the heart of the Newton Stewart defence, who are quick off the line there, and that's the tight head there, Liam Brawls, the captain, who just flings himself at the knees of the Peebles players, and the penalty now goes away in Newton Stewart.
It was a dynamic situation, there's nothing there. Safety, please.
And it's as close as Newton Stewart have been this whole game. The ball, McDonald above the head and almost pawed at by Rowan McKeever, but it's been brought down, and the maul now is well formed from Newton Stewart. It's not making much inroads as Robbie McCormick has a little look behind and sees his options outside of him. Options there now, the scrum half finds Gaw, and then back in field Gaw on the wraparound is just taking it off his inside centre. The ball has went to ground, it's ricocheted off the knee. Hodgkiss is having a little look at this and gets back in the goal line area to drop it down for Peebles. That little ricochet from Newton Stewart was dangerous. That ball could have went anywhere when it came off the legs of Thomas Quigley. But good play there from Newton Stewart, very industrious.
Yeah, it was. It's a good play there. You could see they identified their maul wasn't going anywhere. They managed to get it set up. Obviously, the weight and the strength of that pack just didn't do them any favours against Peebles. So managed to get that turnaround there, and obviously the knock-on resulted in a penalty for Peebles.
22 has been kicked down, and that's a brilliant challenge there from James Dow, who drives Jack Gaw just to the turf as he looked to try and break free. Now Mark McCormick has managed just to release his fly half, and it was just kicked straight into the gut of Ross Wolfenden, who was waiting there. If you can call it, he's got a gut. He's built like a butcher's pencil because there's not a lot to him, but he was in the right area. just to retrieve that ball, and he's set up the platform for Peebles here to try and steady the ship after taking a little bit of pressure. Tipped on there from McKeever to Collins. It's Finlay Collins, the number 8, and now Jack Harrison with that big right boot of his just hacks it downfield. Being watched all the way by Jack Gaw with that black scrum cap with the green trim. He feeds it to a teammate who takes proceedings a little bit further forward on that 10-metre line. Now the towering second row of James McMiken for Newton Stewart. Into the hands of Gaw, that flat ball to Mark Craig, who's the second row compatriot of McMiken. It's offloaded straight into the hands of Wolfenden, who's just overrun it and is going to come back for the knock on there. But good defence from Peebles, but again, Newton Stewart starting to really hit their straps and get into this game. Harrison, he finds Wolfenden, now Carrier, he tips on to McKeever, who's arriving at pace, offloads off the deck to Gray, keeping the tempo alive. Not a lot of Newton Stewart players there as Harrison plucks the ball out of the breakdown, out the back door to Hodgkiss now, and he looks to try and size up his options, but he's been well challenged there by Callum Gaw. And just wrapped round the waist of the inside centre. Matty Carrier now. A little hitch kick of the heels, didn't move too far forward but was able to protect the ball as Wolfenden just floats the ball in. Rowan McKeever, who seems to be everywhere in these last couple of minutes, looking for work in the back row. Wolfenden carries the ball to the line and certainly didn't hold back going into contact, trying to free those arms and just lure the Newton Stewart players into contact to pick some space for allowing his players to burst through. Not happening on this occasion as Ross Brown again just picks and goes into an attritional battle with the Newton Stewart forwards. Harrison finds McKeever out the back door to Wolfenden. Wolfenden now has found that gap. He's got a player on the outside. Hodgkiss is there, and if Hodgkiss can receive, he's going to go in for a score. There's a couple of Newton Stewart players back, but he dives over the whitewash, and it's a well orchestrated try there from Peebles.
It is. Ross Wolfenden there, he just coasted and almost waited. He seemed to run in sort of slow motion as that gap just appeared in front of him, and he didn't need no second invitations, did he? And James Hodgkiss, he's another young player that's joined this Peebles squad in the past 12 to 18 months, and obviously Ross Wolfenden quite rightly is getting a lot of plaudits recently, but James Hodgkiss is the dream 12 centre. He turns up, he does his job, he's not flashy, he tackles and chops everything, and you see like that as well. He never gives up on a play, he's always running, and he's just always there. So a well-deserved try for a man that's had a very good season quietly in this Peebles side.
And young Ross Wolfenden now sizes up the posts. A little fluttering of wind in behind the posts as the flags just flutter by. And he splits the Kinlan. It's the first successful conversion for Ross Wolfenden this afternoon. Mark McCormick from the line out just charges forward with the ball in hand. It's been slowed down somewhat at that breakdown, and now it's been knocked on by James Dow. The referee has spotted that, but Newton Stewart now have a little bit of their tails up now, and they're looking to try and take advantage.
No hands.
They've certainly got confidence here and know that this Peebles side can be tested and probed in that defensive line. Now tipped on. It's Quigley finds Jack Gaw, one of the three Gaws in this team.
Advantage is over.
Plucked back up to Thomas Quigley, who just hot foots it into the Peebles 22. The cavalry arrives to clear the Peebles bodies out of the way, but McCormick, the scrum half, pirouettes out of trouble to distribute the ball to some on-rushing players. Mark McCormick now getting the ball softly through the hands into the areas where he feels that his players and his teammates can take advantage of the space, and it's out there in the wide channels that it was there on that occasion, not now. And come back in field. And they're making good ground as well with the ball in hand, using some of their heavy artillery to try and breach this Peebles defence. Wolfenden tries to get over the ball but not able to. Now into the hands of James McMiken, the tower in second row, just over the 5 metre line now. And Newton Stewart got a head of steam now out the back to Jack Gaw, who's just dropped the ball. And Peebles had an opportunity there. David Collins and James Dow looking to try and take the ball forward. Harrison passes the ball to Matty Carrier. A couple of knock-ons there that perhaps the referees missed, but let's not dwell too much on that. No assistant referees as the ball is floated across from Ross Brown. They're rolling the clock back there to his days in the centre is Rowan McKeever now, who's trying to manipulate a 2-on-1 situation now. Jordan Charters keeps the ball alive. Ross Brown is there in support. He's got a couple of players outside him. Ross Wolfenden is one on the halfway line, but the referee is going to bring that back for a forward pass. And again, great play from Peebles to break free from their own 22. Interesting landscape in National 2 as the scrum goes the way of Newton Stewart, and now they've managed to manipulate a huge overlap here. They've got a couple of players as Jack Gaw now looks to straighten up his line and bring William Sloan in. He's not needed on this occasion. The offload just not able to get in from the fullback. There was a chance there for the Newton Stewart fullback, but the ball is recycled quickly as Daffyd Gwynn now goes back in field. Newton Stewart with Gaw now, the fly half this time, David Gaw.
No hands!
Just twisting out of trouble.
Step back, step.
Robbie McCormick feeds Mark McCormick, who just plummets to the ground. You know, the second row there, Mark Craig has a little bite at the defensive line here from Peebles. It's there to be breached. He flings some forwards into the Newton Stewart effort, but again that red and white wall holds firm. Robbie McCormick is down to his knees as the second row there. James McMiken tries to go forward. Again being repelled by this Peebles defensive line. David Gaw now, he's found Thomas Quigley, and Thomas Quigley just squirms his way over the line. And Newton Stewart, you've got to say they deserve it as well, but they've been able just to be patient and be accurate when it counts, and they get their first 5-pointer of this game.
Yeah, they did, and they really had to trust their own patience with that as well. Obviously, you know, they used their big hitter, the number 8 McCormick, and he didn't get through. Like you said, he plummeted straight to ground. It was a great tackle on him, and James Hodgkiss, he was kind of a man on an island there, wasn't he? He had about 3 men he had to defend really up until they made the decision for him, and unfortunately he was so far back against his line. Any collision that wasn't dominant was going to result in a try there, and as you said, 5 points for Newton Stewart.
David Gaw now. Wins are vital for Newton Stewart. Right-footed kick is successful as well. And good conversion there from the Newton Stewart fly half. The Newton Stewart are chasing their first victory at the Gytes. Sacked at the line out there, and legally so by the referee. Newton Stewart doing well to repel that, what would be a dangerous driving maul. Matty Carrier tips on to Murdo Anderson. He almost offloads, but quite sensibly so, just brings the ball back to his body as Hodgkiss finds Wolfenden out wide. He flings the ball to Davy Collins. He then throws that dummy, presents the ball back as he is tackled on the 22-metre line. Now Harrison, he finds Rowan McKeever as industrious as ever on the 22. And just laterally goes across the field to try and exploit that line. Hodgkiss flings a ball at nothing, and it's just ended up at the feet of James Dow, and he's challenged by 2 players and just offload to Kenny Clyde. He has to twist back into trouble, or out of trouble, to present the ball back as Ross Brown now dips the shoulder. He bounces James McMiken out of the road, and Wolfenden now thinks he spots a gap back in field. James Dow is there, but the ball is just flung over his shoulder. Harrison does get over the line, but it's just drifted forward there. But again, good play from Wolfenden. He asks so many questions, and it's great when you watch a fly half and he's got options, and the option is distribute the ball out wide, let's take it to the line or kick, and you're always unsure as to what he's going to do, which really keeps defences in line. A lot of people have known about for a while in the town, but to immerse him in senior rugby has been a bit of a find for this home side, and it could be the player to help propel them into National 1. This game still got a while to go. It's Peebles 12, Newton Stewart 7. Newton Stewart currently trying to play out of their own 22. Peebles defending.
Time is now.
Trying to keep the pressure on the visitors from Wigtonshire. Pass to Gaw, and Gaw is going to kick off field.
Leave him one.
And the referee is going to bring half-time to a close. I was a bit nervous there that he's perhaps made a little bit of an error, but the fly half certainly knew that time was up in the first half here, and it's been a competitive first half. Perhaps Peebles should probably have a little bit more of a gap.
Time is on.
Just a shrill of the whistle there, and Jack Harrison gets the second half underway, and he kicks it downfield into the Newton Stewart half, and they've now got to try and exit their own area, and it's something they found difficult to do in the first half, as the second row James McMiken now carries forward into the back door for Robbie McCormick, who just passes to David Gaw. Davy Collins gathering in the backfield as the Peebles players filter back round, as Jack Harrison is one of them. He puts boot to ball, and it's just ricocheted into the clutches of Robert Service, and James Dow is all over that, trying to get the ball back, and does well, but there's been a knock on in there. The referee just having a look at that. It's going to be brought back, the knock on from Newton Stewart. So that attempt at a kick downfield from Jack Harrison, perhaps when I was looking at it from up here, it's probably not the right option, but he's fortunate that it's resulted in a knock on. It is now starting to creep and crane forward as Harrison stoops to pass the ball to Hodgkiss. He's got options there. One of them is Jordan Charters, who just goes through the gap. Wolfenden then floats a low ball into the hands of his winger, but it's just too low to gather as Jack Gaw now gathers. He passes on to David Gaw. David Collins now has to scamper back to try and clean up, and he does well to evade a couple of challenges. Goes back in field to Rowan McKeever, who's on the 22, and Peebles are going to have to get back to secure this ball. They do a good job of that as Harrison now finds Charters, whose heels were almost caught on the ground there. He had to stretch to gather that ball. and far away from his body, but well gathered. And now Harrison finds Wolfenden, who's back, and he lumps a high testing ball downfield. It's been gathered there by David Gaw, a conversion in the first half, and then a slightly unorthodox slow run up to kick the ball. He stoops his hips as he looks to size up his kick downfield, and Ross Wolfenden has just been driven to the ground by, I think it was Thomas Quigley there, looking trying to leave one on the fly half. And now I think that's pumped up Matty Carrier, because he just carried forward, taking a couple of Newton Stewart players with him. Wolfenden then feeds that flat ball to Rowan McKeever, and he has just ghosted through. He's got Harrison inside, he's got a couple of options, and Harrison is just going to be clattered by it was Daffyd Gwynn who was back there for Newton Stewart. And Jack Harrison now on the 22 finds Wolfenden. Wolfenden floats the ball to Kenny Clyde. He just tips it on to Davy Collins. He's got options inside and outside. He's not going to use them because the Newton Stewart players have filtered across well, and that scramble defence has done its job for the visitors. And now Murdo Anderson flings himself forward. Nobody competing at that ruck, and Matt Carrier now right-footed stomp back in field, and he just flops on the ball. It does eventually squirm out as Ross Brown then bounces forward and just takes a Newton Stewart player as a casualty with him. Now Wolfenden, he's got a couple of options and just tips it on to Hodgkiss there, who does well to stay as high as possible for as long as possible. And now Rowan McKeever just plucks the ball from the ruck. He looks to try and drive forward, but it's almost ripped there from Newton Stewart. Now in the 5 metre line, Wolfenden looks like he's taking a sore one as well as John Napier. It gathers the ball and he's relatively stationary, and he's been clattered by Newton Stewart. Harrison finds Kenny Clyde, and Kenny Clyde has managed to evade the first challenge, then the second. Great offload out the back door. The Newton Stewart players are able to just stop that passage of play dead from that offload from Kenny Clyde. And now Peebles have got an opportunity here. Can they do what they weren't doing in the first half and just be a little bit more composed? Matty Carrier runs that tight angle, but it wasn't on that occasion because the Newton Stewart players are just dragging the players from Peebles back into the contact zone. 5 metres shy of the Newton Stewart line now on the far left hand side. Matty Carrier picks and goes. His shirt is just driven up on him, and he's been able to just drop that ball back. So Peebles relinquish a couple of metres there from Matty Carrier's carry, and it almost looks like it's been knocked forward there. The referee is going to bring that back because it's a clumsy knock on from Peebles there. And Wolfenden is still down on his knees, and he's obviously taking a sore one. It's going to be a throw in here, and it's going towards the middle. It has been flat back eventually, and it is Robbie McCormick who manages just to sweep up behind that line out there. He's been wrapped up there by Neil Hogarth, who's trying to get his hands all over that ball. He's been caught in a very awkward position, but the replacement prop does a great job of getting out of a dangerous area. Now Finlay Collins goes low, and the on-rushing Newton Stewart player, the hooker there, Thomas McDonald, he carries forward, and now Newton Stewart are able to wrap round and create some space out wide. It's been flung forward there by Robert Service, and there's a little cry of forward there from the Peebles spectators, but the referee lets this one slide, and Peebles are going to have to defend hard here because they've only got a 5-point cushion against the visitors here. Newton Stewart never ever won at the Gytes. This could be the first occasion where they do and breathe a little bit of life back into their promotion campaign, as Matty Carrier just slips a challenge. He's able to just stop the onslaught enough as Neil Hogarth gets over the ball. The pressure comes on from Robbie McCormick, and now David Gaw gets that bobbling ball. He's on the 10 metre line now, and he's been again well marshalled by the Peebles defence as Robbie McCormick finds Mark McCormick, who filters the ball out to Daffyd Gwynn, who wrong foots Kenny Clyde and makes a good 10 yards there. And Kenny Clyde has he probably felt like he was falling in stages because it took ages to get to the ground, but David Gaw now just wrapping round, getting the ball back off his hooker Thomas McDonald, but it looks like it has just drifted forward, and Rowan McKeever is sweeping up, and again a scrag tackle from Newton Stewart is able just to fling the back row forward to the ground. Advantage coming here for Peebles, but it's only in the form of a defensive scrum. Harrison now going through the stages of passing the ball to Ross Brown. He sets the platform. The Peebles forwards then just by routine go through their phases and get over the ball. Ross Wolfenden just flings the ball to Neil Pate out wide. And the referee, Peebles are better being in danger of not losing this advantage as well, because they could sleepwalk into a bit of trouble here, because Jack Harrison now finds himself centre field, which is going to be a more difficult kick to try and get out of their own goal area. And Neil Hogarth goes forward, a difficult player to bring down, and tips the ball on to James Dow. Just in the shadows of their own uprights as the wind starts to pick up here at the Gytes and go more left to right. Matty Carrier now, he'll certainly not run it in from the 22, but he'll lure in a couple of players, because there's a couple of Newton Stewart players having to wrap round his waist to take him down. But the penalties come on from Peebles as well, so in the end, it's an okay decision from the home side as Jack Harrison goes quickly. He takes it and runs into a body. He tries to offload to Jordan Charters, but the referee is going to bring it back again for a repeat of that penalty. But again, in the end, it's probably a fortunate decision for Peebles more than anything else. Matty Carrier grabs the ball, the towel off of the ball boy. A little mop of that head and a little cleaning the ball as well. Gets it back again, gets under the chins as well. He's having a good wash, Matty Carrier here.
It's bleeding, I think, is what they were singing it for.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, I think so.
And there's going to be a replacement as well. It looks like John Gray is going to come off and Rory Smith is coming on the field of play. He made his debut against Stuart Melville in that victory at Inverleith, where he also got a try from a drive in Maul, so they'll be hoping that he can add to their efforts. His first job is to hoist Ross Brown high into the sky to retrieve that ball from Matty Carrier. And Peebles do well to gather and go forward, and now Rowan McKeever is first receiver. Goes into contact, driven back towards that 10 metre line again, and allows Harrison just to dig the ball out. Rudy Smith is just not able to gather, and now that loose ball is needing to be killed here from Peebles because the ball probably wasn't the best for the replacement front row.
Set, maintain your height.
As McCormick feeds the scrum, the pressure comes on yet again. They go against the blind side, and Jack Harrison now has to try and chase his opposite man back, and he's slipped him. It's now a 2-on-1, and Newton Stewart are going to go in for a score, and it is a try from Robert Service. Sloppy tackling there from Peebles.
Right here.
And Newton Stewart now draw all square.
Yeah, Robbie McCormick and his brother Mark McCormick at the base of that scrum. They have that understanding between each other. As we've said in the pre-game, Newton Stewart breed their own players, and they've been playing alongside each other for years now, so they'll understand exactly what they do with a call. And then, as you say, Robert Service good there to just hold on his line, run onto it. Like you said, a bit of a poor tackling from Jack Harrison there. He kept trying to go high. He was more focused on batting the arm away, and that led Robbie McCormick to allow to scamper the best part of 10 to 15 metres. So all Robert Service had to do was really just keep running in a straight line. So a very good try for Newton Stewart there, and as you say, with this kick to come, it's all square.
Newton Stewart with the chance to go into the lead here at the Gytes. A reminder, they've never ever tasted victory at the Gytes. They've never been above National 2 either, or an equivalent of National 2. Came within touching distance last year, and now Gaw kicks towards the posts, and it just curls towards the right hand side of the upright, so we're all square. And Newton Stewart might be able to, for the first time in their history, get away from the Gytes with points of some description in the bag. They kick downfield, it's been charged down by Jack Harrison, and then that ball is just spinning on the turf. It could have went any way there for either side. And Newton Stewart now are pressing the panic button, trying to escape their own 22, and it is James McMiken who's trying to break free from the clutches of the Peebles players. They arrive en masse to try and get the ball back, and Rowan McKeever has been able to burrow in an underground tunnel somehow and been able to escape with that ball. Because now Jack Harrison has the ball in hand. He passes to Anderson. Anderson finds Kenny Clyde. Peebles have numbers up, but Kenny Clyde goes back in field, and probably at this stage a quite smart decision because he's been able to give that ball back. Peebles now will be looking to try and turn the screw and show a little bit more patience than they did earlier on in this game. Matty Carrier, he's got 4 players hanging off his coattails there to drag him to ground, which means there's some space somewhere else. Rudy Smith looks to try and exploit that. Harrison finds Brown. Brown goes forward and then is brought to ground. Harrison again stoops and gives the ball to Wolfenden, who's just kicked the ball, just squirmed out of his grasp and then lumps the ball forward. And now Newton Stewart are on the counter attack. Jordan Charters is going to have to make a smart challenge here. He does just that as the ball breaks free again, but I think the referee will bring that back for a knock on. And it's a put into the scrum to Newton Stewart inside their own 22. How will they approach this? The scrum almost goes forward. Jack Harrison has just been able, and the penalty is going to come the way of Peebles, because Jack Harrison defensively very smart there from the scrum half just to plug that gap. But the bulldozer of a scrum just pile drive forward, and just any red shirt in front of the Peebles team was just flipped over and flat packed as the penalty is going the way of Peebles now. Harrison finds Wolfenden. There's a player back inside but not able to use it on this occasion. He just takes the ball to the line, goes on his own. Peebles try, keep the ball in hand. Harrison, the scrum half, it bringes forward. And probably this might be the recipe to breach this defensive line. But Newton Stewart drive Ross Brown back. Wolfenden scoops the ball into the hands of Carrier. He passes on to an on-rushing Kenny Clyde. Jack Harrison now finds Finlay Collins. He's laterally driven by Daffyd Gwynn across the 22. Peebles still got the advantage coming, and pass to Neil Hogarth. Neil Hogarth, instead of using players outside him, opts to go it alone, but he's been stripped. The referee is not given the advantage either, because it's now into the hands of Newton Stewart. They kick downfield. Neil Pate is the only player back for Peebles, and he watches that ball bobble off the field And I thought perhaps the penalty advantage might have came there for Peebles, but I've just been told it was for a knock-on there from the scrum half, and the number 8 combined for Newton Stewart. It wasn't a penalty advantage, so the Peebles cries beneath us at the balcony are falling on deaf ears, the match official.
Yeah, I think so, and you have to say they had their chance with it. Obviously, Ross Wolfenden missed that option to have David Collins running back inside him, but that scrum was exactly what Peebles have been after all time. You've seen it. Mark McCormick had managed to get away from it so far, but that imposing second row of Kenny Clyde and Ross Brown, they just got their front row marching, and obviously significant weight of Matty Carrier and Ruth Smith also add to that. So yeah, they just managed to engulf that scrum underneath them there, and it was never going any other way except Peebles' ball.
Ball at the line out has not gone to hand this time because Brawls emerges with it at the tail of the line out, and now Newton Stewart are back in the Peebles half, and they've got the ball in hand. They target the Wolfenden pocket, and they're through. The second row there for Newton Stewart is just broke free. He's up towards the 22. Mark Craig with a lung-busting run towards the Peebles 22, and Newton Stewart have their tails up. Mark McCormick, the powerhouse of a number 8, now charges forward. Peebles try and spoil it and win the penalty inside their own 22, but it's nervy times for Peebles now.
Yeah, it was, and it was also nervy times for Newton Stewart there. They knew their number 8 was isolated, so they've just given away a penalty at the breakdown there with a bit of a tip and taking the legs away. So a silly play from Newton Stewart there because they had real ascendancy, and you could see Peebles were on panic stations there. They were just trying to do anything to get that ball slowed down, so a bit of a let-off here for the home side.
Kellen McKeever on for Peebles. He's going to replace Jordan Charters. And the scrum there's a bit of pressure coming on from Newton Stewart this time. Harrison gives the ball to Hodgkiss, out to Wolfenden. He just sizes up and kicks it centre field, and it's probably not the smartest kick to launch down the throat of Jack Gott. He just returns the ball downfield to Ross Wolfenden, who's got a nice chance to lob this downfield, and that is a lovely angled kick. The bounce of the ball vital here for both sides. It's starting to crane its way towards the touchline, but Robbie McCormick was there ready to retrieve the ball. He kicks the ball downfield and makes brilliant distance there, the scrum half, as he just hooks that ball out over the halfway line. The referee from the quick line out just brings it back into the final stages of this game. Peebles 12, Newton Stewart 12. Peebles sitting top of National 2, but this will bring all the teams below them a little bit closer. It's the McCormicks who link up, and then the ball is just floated over to Service, who manages just to break free from that challenge. The most recent try scorer, he's challenged, and the ball looked like it did bobble forward, and Peebles are going to have to do well to plug the gap in midfield eventually. It's McCormick yet again, Mark McCormick, the number 8, who's taking the ball forward for Newton Stewart. Robbie McCormick gets the ball from the base of that ruck and tips on. The Newton Stewart backs doing well to link up, and now they've got some space out wide for the replacement there on the far side. Newton Stewart on the 22. A chance here to get a victory against Peebles and get themselves back in the promotion hunt here in the National 2 battle between themselves, Falkirk, and you'd imagine Last Wade will be licking their lips at this scoreline as well. McCormick looking for that little ball back inside, and it has been gathered there by James McMiken, who for my money is probably man of the match. But ball back inside there. Thomas Quigley just bouncing off his feet, looks to try and link up with Callum Gaw as his centre partnership, and then an acute line and arriving at pace is Newton Stewart looking to splinter through this defensive line. Again not able to against the grain. Now the second row, Craig this time. Mark Craig charges forward. The endeavour and the effort from this Newton Stewart side is unbelievable. Scrum against the head has allowed them into this position.
I didn't see, no screen. Release tacklers, no hands.
A challenge there from Ron McKeever off the ball has not been seen. The referee letting that one go, and now the ball's going wide. Service goes one way, then goes the other. He brushes off Ross Brown, and he gets a second chance to try and drag him to ground. Dangerous territory now for Peebles. Newton Stewart have got a chance here to win it at the death here. They were 12 points to 0 down after 24 minutes, and then they've slowly but surely clawed their way back into this game and found confidence, and certainly found their accuracy as well in the 22. Newton Stewart on the far side, encouraged on from their personnel who are escaping their technical area, charging down the touchline to issue some instructions to their teammates and their friends. Every inch, every metre which is hard earned by Newton Stewart could have great rewards in their promotion push as Brawls crawls forward towards that Peebles try line. McCormick dives down, forwards, bundle forward to try and get through and over this try line here. McCormick again just burrows his head in between the Peebles limbs against the grain. It is now the second row and James McMiken who's going forward. The penalty is going to go the way of Peebles. And Rory Smith is the player.
Leave him.
And Jack Harrison is being dragged out.
Stop.
The referee, you can hear the referee screaming stop. Jack Harrison now on the ground. All the players are coming together, frustrations boiling over.
Stop.
Jack Harrison
Move away. Yeah, let me talk to you. Time off, lads. Time off.
On his feet, and hopefully we can hear the words of the referee, Alex Obreja. He's going to have a word with Brawls, which is ironic. So the referee is just in the middle of the field now, just inviting Murdo Anderson and Brawls for a conversation.
We're in injury time, players are getting involved. Discipline is your responsibility, even in this situation. I shouldn't have to say stop. Penalty against you, okay, holding on. Penalty restart, we play on, but time is up, okay?
You've heard it there from the match official, time is up. Penalty is going the way of Peebles, and this is going to be an interesting option.
No, you have to go off field.
Game management here, they're going to tap it. Kick it off field, Ross Wolfenden lumps it out, and Peebles are happy with a draw at the Gytes because Newton Stewart have come back from 12 points to 0 down to claw themselves into a position where they had the men from the Gytes on the ropes, because they, by all rights in the second half, probably should have got the victory. But it was a try earlier on from Matty Carrier. It was doubled by Hodgkiss, and you thought Peebles were swimming and sailing towards an important victory, but Quigley managed to get a reply score before half time, before Service, who got a try in the second half. There were only 5 points in the second half, but that vital 5 points meant that it's Newton Stewart who get a draw here in National 2, and Peebles, they'll stay top of the pile, but Falkirk are that much closer to them now as it finishes here at the Gytes. Peebles 12, Newton Stewart 12.
It's a bit bittersweet. It's a tough one to take just now, but when we look back at it, I'm quite sure we'll be pretty happy. At the end of the day, these boys are top of the league, unbeaten at home, so we can't complain too much about it. Just a couple of decisions didn't go our way today, but that happens in rugby.
Mm-hmm. And then you mentioned it there, but another focal point in that game today was your scrum really started to suffer a bit. Whether that's because you couldn't get McCormick off the base quite as quickly as you wanted to, I don't know. But how was that for yourself? How does that affect your game planning and your strategy as the game goes on?
Yeah, so we're not the biggest pack going about, so it always is kind of a downfall for us. So we just try and get it in, get it out, play quick, expansive rugby. That's our game plan. Pitch held up quite good to it, so it's one of them. It's a game, and just take a look at it and training and go back to it and try and work on a bit more.
And then the final 10 minutes, obviously you won that scrum against the Head. You found yourself deep in the Peebles half. How much were you thinking about trying to get that penalty, or was the drop goal coming into it, or were you just thinking, I want nothing to do with that, I'm in the front row, we're going to scrum this till the cows come home?
Like the way we seen it is we were pretty dominant. We knew we were getting on top of them at the end there, so we says back ourselves, didn't want to go for the drop goal, take any chances, so we just kept backing ourselves, try to build on the pressure, and hopefully a penalty came our way. Sadly it didn't, it went the other way, and that's the way the referee seen it, so that was us, yeah.
And finally now, you now sit at the table, so it's Peebles 57, Falkirk 56 and yourselves on 52. You've got Lasswade behind you on 49 with another game to play against everybody, but do you feel like you're now back in the race? Does this feel like it's going to spur you on?
Yeah, totally. Like, so we came down here, the way we seen it was today for us is a cup final kind of thing. We've got nothing to lose, so like even if we lose the games going in, we're still going to be in the league next year, so just take every game as it comes and go from there.
I asked the same question to Liam Brawls just there. A 12-all draw against the team in third. Are you happy with that?
No. No, we didn't do anything that we've been practicing for the last 3 weeks, so disappointed to not take more of it than that. We didn't do what we'd been practicing, and I mean, it's better, a draw is better than losing, but we're not happy with that at all.
Yeah, and obviously your 2 tries came very early on in the game, within the first 20 minutes, just outside the 20-minute mark for Hodgkiss's try there. But how is that going on when you're feeling such dominance in the game and you start to feel Newton Stewart come back against you? What are you doing as captain to try sort of stem that tide of that Newton Stewart possession?
We've just got to try and keep positive chat on the pitch, try and implement what we've been talking about, what we're going to do and what we've been practicing at training, and then not losing the ball, not dropping the ball, which has unfortunately let us down a bit there.
And now Falkirk, obviously they got a big win today away from home, so they sit 1 point behind you in the table. What are you and the boys going to have to do in training now to just sort of regain that form after those dramatic wins you've had in the past 2 against Kirkcaldy and Lasswade?
We'll just have to we'll just have to work harder than we have been. We know what we need to do, and we've been doing it at training, and it's been looking good, but we didn't implement it today. So we need to ask ourselves why that's not happening. Whether it's we need guys watching more footage back of what we did as a team wrong and what we did individually wrong, what we did right as well, and work to our strengths and try and work off all our weaknesses.
So, after a hard-fought game today, Peebles do still retain their unbeaten home record with a 12-all draw. Perhaps not the result that either team were looking for. Next week, we're off to Rayburn Place, weather permitting, of course, to hopefully see Edinburgh Accies take on Kelso. Hope you can join us there, but for now, from a very chilly Gytes, cheerio.